Have you ever noticed how some interactions leave you just completely drained while others feel perfectly balanced? We usually think of our personal relationships, our careers, and global politics as entirely separate worlds, like they operate on completely different rules, right? But what if there's actually a single, hidden law of nature governing all of them? Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're uncovering a really fascinating framework that connects the deeply personal boundaries we set with friends straight up to the massive diplomatic deadlocks we see in society. It's a universal law of energy, and once you see it, you're going to completely rethink how you give your time, your resources, and your focus to the world around you. Let's get into it.
Picture this for a second. Think about a friend, an old colleague, or maybe just an acquaintance suddenly reaching out to you. Maybe it's a random text out of nowhere, or they just walk right up to your desk. I want to ask you directly, why do people approach you? Most of us love to believe it's just out of pure affection, or simply because they enjoy our company. We want human interactions to be completely spontaneous, no strings attached. But the source material we're analyzing today challenges that comforting little assumption in a really profound way.
Consider this stark reality. There is no such thing as coming purely to help you. Sounds a bit harsh, doesn't it? It kind of shatters the whole illusion of purely altruistic, aimless relationships. But the philosophy here asserts a tough but absolutely crucial truth. When someone makes the effort to move towards you, they have a purpose. Even if they don't consciously realize it themselves, they're approaching you because they lack something. They need what you have. If you mistakenly believe they're coming purely to benefit you, well, you're misreading the fundamental law of human interaction, and honestly, that naivety can lead to a lot of pain down the road.
Okay, let's dive into this. The core concept here is that every single human interaction is a measurable exchange of energy. People approach you because they literally need your energy mass. You might have spent years accumulating knowledge or emotional stability or financial resources. That is your energy of 100. And when someone comes to you, they're naturally drawn to that energy. They need a piece of it to grow or maybe to heal. And hey, this isn't inherently a bad thing. It's just how the world works. But treating human connection like a measurable energy exchange means you've got to start acting like a wise investor rather than an endless overflowing charity.
So what's the actual actionable life advice when someone comes knocking? Step 1. Welcome them gently. You don't need to be cold or overly suspicious. Offer them a seat, pour them a cup of coffee. But then comes the most important part. Step 2. Observe their true intentions. Do not just blindly agree to help. If someone has a hidden agenda or a deep underlying need, it takes a little time for their true colors to show. You've got to observe them carefully to understand exactly what they need from your energy reserves. Only then do you move to step 3, where you calculate what you can actually reasonably give. Which brings us to the absolute most critical number in this entire explainer.
30%. So the crucial point is this. 30% is the absolute maximum threshold of your total energy that you should ever yield to a single requester. If your total available energy, meaning your time, your money, your emotional bandwidth, is 100, you must never invest more than 30 of it into someone else's problem. Even if it's a close friend, even if they're incredibly well prepared and practically begging for your help. The source dictates this as an unbreakable law of nature. 30% is the hard ceiling for healthy cooperation.
And this brilliantly illustrates why that limit exists. Think of that 30% slice as your safe investment. When you help someone within that limit, it's a healthy exchange. The energy returns to you later as a positive, clear light. It actually comes back as good fortune and mutual growth. But cross that line into the 70% danger zone, and the mechanics of the universe literally turn against you. Giving away more than 30% isn't an investment anymore, it's foolishness. And the universe has a strict penalty for it. The exact same massive amount of hardship you try to alleviate for them will come crashing right back down on you. You'll suffer the consequences of overextending your energy.
But what happens when someone comes in hot and demands 70% of your energy right out of the gate? First off, realize that the requester is on the wrong frequency entirely. They aren't looking for a helping hand, they're looking to drain you. Therefore, total rejection is required. You must firmly and politely say no. Do not compromise. You might be tempted to think, well, they asked for 70%. Maybe I'll just give them 10% to be nice. No way. The source specifically warns that even yielding a tiny fraction to an unreasonable demand brings a painful shock right back to you. The frequencies are totally mismatched here. If the demand exceeds the law, just shut it down.
Of course, the rule goes both ways. It's incredibly important to hold a mirror up to ourselves here. When you are the one seeking an energy exchange, when you're the one who's thirsty and looking for a well, you must strictly apply this exact same law to your own requests. Never approach someone and demand more than 30% of their resources. If you actually want your request to be successful, you have to read the room, understand the other person's energy mass, and ask for a modest, manageable amount. Asking for less than 30% is actually the secret to getting a yes.
Scaling up, applying the 30% rule to society. Let's move right into it.
Now, let's take a deep breath because we're pulling the camera way, way back. We've talked a lot about personal friendships and individual boundaries, but here's where this explainer gets truly fascinating. What happens when we apply this exact same 30% rule, this universal law of energy, to society as a whole? We can actually strip away all the emotional and political baggage and just look at our societal factions as mechanical functions of energy. On the left, we have progressives. Their function in society is to approach and demand change for a better system. They're the seekers of energy. On the right, we have conservatives. Their function is to maintain stability and hold the accumulated resources. They are the holders of energy. And listen, neither is inherently good or bad. They're literally just two halves of an energy equation that need to interact for society to function.
So why is society constantly gridlocked? Why do labor strikes and political factions just scream at each other without anything actually getting done? Because they're violating the energy law. They're clashing 100 versus 100. The progressives, wanting to change the system, march in and demand 70% or more change instantly. But remember our rule from earlier? What happens when a friend demands 70% of your energy? You reject it immediately because it feels like a threat. When progressives demand massive, immediate change from conservatives who hold 100% of the resources, the result is an automatic, mechanical failure. It leads only to war, stalled progress, and just massive mutual bleeding.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a brilliant, concrete blueprint for true societal change. If demanding 70% fails, what actually works? Staggered, calculated energy exchanges. In Stage 1, the progressives approach and ask for a change of strictly under 30%. Because it's within that safe zone, the conservatives can easily accept it without feeling threatened. Once that small change proves successful, we move to Stage 2. Because trust has been established, the progressives can now ask for 40%. And eventually, through these careful, calculated steps, we reach Stage 3, seamlessly achieving 100% of the desired transformation without a single drop of blood spilled.
This creates an incredible psychological ripple effect. When conservatives readily concede that initial 30% and the changes actually yield good results for society, something amazing happens. The conservatives actually praise the progressives. Let that sink in for a second. Instead of bitter enemies, they become collaborative partners. The progressives earn immense trust, and it's entirely that trust, earned by respecting the 30% law of nature, that unlocks the very next stage of negotiation. It empowers everyone to move forward together rather than just fighting over a stalemate.
And that brings us to our core thesis, the wisdom of nature's law. Whether it's a demanding friend who's draining your personal energy or a massive political faction trying to overhaul an entire national system, the solution is identical. You achieve 100% transformation not through brute force or impossible demands, but through calculated, empathetic, and staggered energy exchanges. Understanding that interactions are just energy and respecting that 30% threshold gives you the wisdom to navigate human relationships absolutely flawlessly.
So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. In your own life right now, where are you over-investing your energy, maybe crossing into that dangerous 70% zone for someone else? Or, conversely, where are you playing the role of the aggressive progressive in your own life, demanding way too much change way too quickly from your partner, your boss, or your friends? Take a step back, calculate your energy, and remember the power of the 30% rule. Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer. Until next time, stay curious and protect your energy.